they should have announced that election. By not announcing it, we have a situation in hand that the Constitution does not provide for. This is the first time Nigeria will be caught under a constitution that no provision exists for it. Now, the only thing we can look at is the nearest to reality under this constitution. Number one, the constitution clearly says that when a governor is going for an election, he must have a deputy. It is a mandatory position. So when a governor supposedly is going in to be voted for, he is not going in alone. He's going on a joint ticket of himself and his deputy. So both of them own the ticket.
They both own the ticket.
They both own it. And this has been solidified by the Supreme Court decision in Haruna's case. When Atiku was taken over by Obasanjo as a vice presidential candidate, he had already won the election in his state as governor. Now, people wanted to go and do another election, but Boni Haruna says, no. I and Atiku held one ticket. So if he's not available, I automatically step into it.
Even though he has, sorry, man, even though then he hasn't taken the oath of office.
Even though he has not taken.
But some are of the opinion that because INEC had already announced them as winners of that particular election, so it's quite different from this, that is a process.
Yeah, that's where I'm coming to now. So I'm just trying to show that a ticket for a gubernatorial election is a unity ticket. It does not belong to the governor alone.
So in this situation where INEC has already gone ahead and declared the elections inconclusive, what scenario should play out?
Now, as I said, there is no clear provision in the Constitution for what has happened. What you have in the Constitution is if the man dies after the declaration, the deputy steps in. But if the declaration has not been made, and an election has been held, which is inconclusive, not that election has not been held. If an election has not been held, then there is a specific provision in the Constitution which says, okay, INEC can postpone the election and allow the party to bring a candidate. But that is before elections are held. But now elections have been held, so none of these provisions come into play. There is no definite provision in the Constitution that plays into this particular scenario. Now, as a lawyer, this is my own opinion. If we agree under the Constitution that a governor cannot contest without a deputy, making it a unity, ticket. If we go by Boni Haruna's judgment and the Supreme Court that there is one, ticket owned by both the deputy and the gubernatorial candidate.
But Chief Clarke, a different scenario is playing out in Kogi as we speak.
Now, then what I'm saying now, the nearest thing now, for my own view, is that the deputy governor, who has not been elected, but who had already contested on that ticket with him, should take over, because that ticket is one. We have to be careful now. Constitutionally, we cannot allow a vacuum to exist in governance. The position of the present governor will expire in January. If one follows what the Attorney General says, that they should go and do another primary and allow APC to nominate just to replace Audu, how long will this primaries take? Under what constitutional powers did he derive this directive from? There is none.
So in a situation where the deputy governorship candidate did not participate in the primaries, all the primaries, to emerge as a candidate, and his name was not on the ticket or on the forms he was not the one nominated, you're saying he should step in as a substitute?
The Constitution provides, I think it's section 186(1) or something, that look, no gubernatorial candidate can contest an election except he is supported by a running mate. So whether, the primaries, there was a running mate or not, immediately a candidate is named to represent a political party, the Constitution makes it mandatory that he must pick a deputy. He cannot run the election on his own. That shows you that he's not the only candidate at that election. The Constitution says there must be two.
Chief Clarke, if you can clarify this, because there are some people out there who are bothered about this portion. They use the example of Rivers State, where former Governor of Rivers State, Amechi, came in via substitution and said he was substituted. So the Supreme Court said it was his turn because his name was substituted. And then a clause was put into the Electoral Act that says the individual that will run for an election must have gone through every stage. I believe that's what the man was asking. Must have gone through every stage of the electoral process. And the primaries are a stage in the electoral process. How would that work out?
Well, let me explain. To be honest, Amechi's case, I don't go for it. The principle enunciated in Amechi's case, as far as I, Robert Clarke, am concerned, I don't, buy it. But it's the decision of the Supreme Court, and we must accept it. The Electoral Act says that a candidate in an election must be sponsored by a political party. The candidate is a human being. The political party is not a human being. The political party is a corporate being or a legal being. A legal being cannot contest an election, but he can sponsor a human being. So in Amechi's case, the party could not be the one we were voting for because it's not a human being. The party is only a sponsor of a candidate. So in Amechi's case, the party could not be the one being voted for. You cannot vote for a party. You vote for a human being. The party is only to sponsor that human being. So I don't agree with Amechi, but fortunately, Amechi's case has been jettisoned by the Supreme Court itself, so it's no more the law. It's no more the law. But to take her on what she said, you see, the law is clear that a deputy governor does not need to pass through the range of primaries. That is the law. Even in the United States, they don't pass through primaries. It is when you have elected a president, nominated a president united, he now tells you, oh, this is my running mate. Because the law says he cannot stand alone. And if the law says you cannot stand alone, and you go for an election, and you die, and since it's not a single ticket, why don't you want your deputy to take over immediately? Why do you need to go to do primaries that are not provided for in the Constitution?
And the political parties here, they've been speaking, even the PDP, just today, the front page story, the incumbent, Governor Wada, is asking that he be declared the winner, being that he's the second runner-up alive.
The first runner-up.
The first runner-up alive.
Let me be honest with you. Which court is he going to go? The Constitution is clear that all election matters must go to a tribunal. So if he goes to a high court to say he should be declared, that high court has no power under the Constitution to declare anybody elected or not elected. So he's just wasting his time. I'm not going to give him legal opinion here. But I can assure you, if Wada goes to court tomorrow, he's going to either the Federal High Court to ask for a declaration that he has won the election. The Constitution says no, only an election tribunal can declare anybody elected. So jurisdictionally, the Federal High Court will be told that you don't have jurisdiction. You see, this scenario now, many things will come out. Wada's own is one side of it. Many lawyers do have many sides. I have heard a senior advocate made mention that it's not a question of law, but his own personal opinion. My good brother, was on air here. Some others have said, look, let's, have an election. No.
For people in the state, especially, they were waiting for perhaps maybe a declaration, a pronouncement, interpretation from the Supreme Court. And for others, they were waiting for the AGF. And you heard the AGF when he did speak at the end of the day. So many comments have followed that particular comment. Some are already saying he's been partisan, especially even the governor of Ekiti State is looking at that from that angle. What do you make of his comment as the Attorney General and Minister of Justice on the Kogi matter?
As I said, and I've always been canvassing it, the post of an Attorney General and the Minister of Justice should be split. Because if you have an Attorney General who is a political appointee and who is a staunch member of a political party, you can't blame him if he makes political statements on political issues. So if you now say that he is making a political decision, you can't blame him. He's a partisan politician. And he has to kowtow to his party's whims and caprices. So I don't blame him. But it's a very difficult position the Attorney General has found himself today. We all agree there is no specific provision in the Constitution today that you can fit in this scenario into.
And the time is ticking.
And
they have 14 days.
Will not allow a vacuum. And WADA has to leave by January 16th or something. Therefore, we have to do something. If you say go back to the boards to go and do a primary,